En velik aplauz za predavatelje, prosim.
Lepo pozdravljeni. Preden bomo začeli, bi vam rad sam povedal, da bomo govorili v angleščini. To bomo naredili zato, ker imamo posnetek, pa zato, ker je par ljudi, ki govori samo angleško. Ampak ker so oba Slovenca, smo rekli, da vas tudi pozdravimo v slovenščini. Ja, ampak kar gremo naprej. So hi and welcome. Thank you all for coming. I am Janže Račečič. I'm a senior product designer at D.Labs, and this is Tilen, and he's a UX designer at D.Labs, upcoming ICO analyst at Cofound.it. And basically, if you don't know, D.Labs is a company that develops digital products. We are mostly working with clients from London and Germany, and also for a few Slovenian companies. And yeah, we can move on. So today's talk, we're going to take 45 minutes, and basically we split it in half. First off, we're going to touch on principles, design principles that are kind of specific or very important when we design blockchain-based digital products. And second part is going to be about, what else should you know while doing that. After that, we are going to dedicate some time to some questions and answers, and then we'll be wrapping up there. So I hope you all enjoy.
Okay, so now that you know something about us, who are you? I want to see some hands for how many of you have heard of blockchain? Okay, and Bitcoin? How many of you have invested something into one of the cryptocurrencies? Okay, how many of you have participated in an ICO? One? Okay, cool. Okay, so when we talk about blockchain, we have different views for what blockchain is. So as an expert sees blockchain as breaking technology that will revolutionize the future and how many companies and industries are operating and conducting their businesses. So that's as an expert. So how does a friend, let's say my friend or your friend, see the blockchain? Well, they see it as a kind of this new technology that has a lot of hype around it. This hype is mostly because of the people talk about Bitcoin and the value is rising. So, of course, the FOMO kicks in, the fear of missing out, and people naturally want to be part of it. And we treat blockchain, we at D.Labs, and I believe that anyone that is serious enough or that wants to become an expert should treat blockchain not as this purely specific value-driven thing, but as part of a technology stack with which to solve problems that needs solving. So the main benefits of blockchain are basically that we don't have a third party. What that means is that either a company or a single person can directly send, let's say, cryptocurrency, be it Bitcoin, Ether, Litecoin, pick one of the 1,000 and more, directly to other person without the bank knowing about this transaction. Another benefit is big low fees. No, just low fees. But that depends on the technology. The problem of low fees, Bitcoin, how to put this? I don't want to insult any of Bitcoin holders. Bitcoin has, because of the lack of development or lack of scaling solutions, kind of led astray with these low fees. So the average fee for Bitcoin is currently around $5 and it's rising, while for Ethereum or other coins, these fees are still low, about few cents per transaction. Of course, there are different scaling solutions that are aiming to fix this, but as of right now, some of the cryptocurrencies have this benefit, but the biggest ones like Bitcoin have kind of lost this because the valuation is ahead of the technology. One of the biggest benefits for this is that cryptocurrencies are decentralized systems. What this means is that, similar to the first point, there is no third party between, but most importantly, there is no country that owns or can own a cryptocurrency. So yeah, as a user, what we want to make sure is that when it comes to the user and user's interaction with blockchain, we don't want the user to worry about this. We just want to provide an interface and keep the blockchain interactions to a minimum. So if a user doesn't know what blockchain is and he can kind of use the app anyway, that's fine with us. We are aiming for this.
Okay, so we don't want to jump too much into what blockchain actually is. We don't have enough time, and I'm suggesting that you're going to look through some internet material and you'll kind of get the grips of it and so on. What we would like to address today is basically how do we do design for this blockchain-based digital products. And one of the first principles, yeah. So one of the first principles that we use when we start designing a digital product is actually make it easy. And one of the latest examples that we didn't develop, but it's a really good example that was, I don't know, released just a month ago, not even, is in fact CryptoKitties. And why CryptoKitties are so important is because they kind of brought up a lot of those scalable issues about technology. But why I think it's a great product is because it's an actual product. So when they communicate with the user, so blockchain has a lot of specific blockchain-specific, let's say, interaction that a user needs to do. There is a lot of terminology that a common user doesn't really understand, and it's pretty much reserved for the people that are, very well aware of the crypto world. But they've really distilled this into just a few examples. And the thing that how you know that this, like from a user perspective, that you actually know that this product it's built on blockchain is because for their sign up they use MetaMask. Now, Tilen will talk about MetaMask in just a while, but this is only one example, and the second one is that they use Ethereum as a form of selling and buying these digital cats. So this is all, like, these are the only thing you have to know is how to install MetaMask, and you need to, let's say, know what Ethereum is and where to buy it. But that's essentially it. And as for now, I would say that this was one of the products that I think that hit that user experience and explanation of the product really well. Now, they have a really good explanation for those who still don't get it. And I suggest you go to cryptocurrencies.co, and you check this product, and you'll see what I'm trying to say. Now, me and a few of our friends from Outfit 7, we have a side project which is called Starshard the Game. And basically Starshard the Game, it's a trade card game based on blockchain. This is not the actual interface, and this is not because the only thing we currently have from the visual side is the logo, and a lot of technology. Now, what we try to do is that, and I don't know if you're going to see it here, but the thing is that if we compare it to CryptoKitties, how they handle sign up is that you come to a sign up, you said, okay, I want to start, then you need to download MetaMask, you install the MetaMask, you set it up, and then you're finished, and you can use the product, you can, do with those kitties whatever your heart pleases. Now, we want to do it a little bit different. We want that even the users who don't want to deal with blockchain we want to kind of put them into the system and, you know, offer them to play the game. Now, how we want to do it is that we have some sort of a sign-up, which is completely, you know, well-established sign-up flow. So you either sign up with Facebook or Twitter, or maybe you sign up with your Gmail account or whatever, and then you're already in the dashboards and you can play the game. Now, blockchain, why is the blockchain behind these trade card games? Is because that every single card is on the blockchain, so it has a unique ID, a token with a unique ID. Therefore, it means that, you know, you are an actual owner of that digital asset, which is a card. And basically, until this point, you are not really an owner. And only when you claim those cards, then we introduces you to MetaMask and, you know, the sign up and so on. Now, the thing is that all of this, the first part in this, you know, light gray, it's all centralized product. It's a digital product as we know it. And there's a lot of technology that kind of needs to go behind that. For instance, we need to know that this user is associated with those cards, and we don't want to put them on blockchain right away. But then when a user claims those cards, then all of those cards need to be transferred to the Ethereum network and so on and so forth. So did you actually understand what I tried to say? Like, did you understand how that technology works? Did you even care, maybe? Well, my argument is that no, you know, you don't want to know that information. You don't care for real. What the user actually wants to see are two CTAs. One is the sign up. One is, okay, let's finish the sign up and then claim your cards. Like, this is what the user wants to see. Oh, by the way, do you know what the CTA is? It's basically the button. It's call to action. It's just an expression that we use. All right, so if you're interested more about the game, you can visit the website, or you can join us in February in Ljubljana, where we are going to showcase the game. But that's it for now.
Okay. If we continue with the why to use blockchain, it's safe, it's super safe, but not always. So why not always? There are risks involved, and most of the risks come with either unskilled user of a blockchain. Some example of this include users don't know how to properly put or store their cryptocurrencies. They use wrong wallets, or they don't properly take care of their private keys. This is all the technical stuff. If anyone wants to know more about this, just raise your hand and we can explain to more detail. And the other issue is that the code will always be, or at least in majority is, and will be written by people, and people make mistakes. So an important thing here is to audit the code and really take care of the security, because if you make a mistake once, it will be very hard to get rid of that bad branding you created either for yourself or your company. Just because blockchain technology is built to eliminate the reliance on trust, that doesn't mean that users will trust the machine or network. So hence the need for people and people input. Trust is a complex thing, so from a UX point of view, you need to educate your user. We touched on the subject that you don't necessarily need to introduce the user directly to the blockchain interface if not needed, but let them know that they use the blockchain if they need to know about this. So educate your users and provide constant feedback. Okay, so an example of this, there is an app we were developing or designing for an Eventum blockchain project. They didn't have an ICO yet, but the main point is they are a protocol for reporting real-time events, similar to Augur, if anyone knows it, but Augur is for future events. Eventum is all about reporting real-time stuff that happens worldwide. And what I want to focus on here is that the left screen, see the left screen, and how we, the top part of the screen is just two inputs with some title of the page or instructions on of what to do. And at the bottom where the blockchain gets involved, specifically the Ethereum or Ether wallet address, we explain and offer help if the user needs to. So the user can click on the why do I need this, for example, for inputting the Ether wallet address, or how to get it in order to buy it. Basically provide the user with information if they need it, but don't obstruct the view in case someone uses an app.
So the idea is that you want to show all the information, but you don't want to show it to all of the users. So, you know, common UX practices apply, like hide it behind the pop-up or hide it behind the tooltip, or something like that. Now, the second in this building the trust with your application and the user, or between the application and the user, is actually a very responsive interface. Now, when I click a button, I want that something happens. I want that there's animation there. And I don't want to go too deeply into the animation stuff and how the transitions happens between the screen and so on. And I think that still one of the best references on how to handle the animation inside the interface design, it's basically to look up the motion provides meaning principle from Google Material Design. And there's a link underneath there, and just visit that site. They have really well explained. But what we find out actually is that you know, the animation and a responsive interface really goes a long way in any digital product, really. But in blockchain-based digital product, that's even more important. Now, this is a big chunk, and this is not a principle which is specific to blockchain projects. Once again, it goes across all the digital products, and just kind of keep it consistent. And when I say keep it consistent, I essentially mean more in that visual representation sense. Now, there are two ways how to kind of get your consistency into your interface design. And one of them is, of course, you know, practice makes perfect. So the more you're going to do it, the better you'll be about it. But I think that the second really important stuff is that you kind of put the right process and right methodologies in there. Now, we are not going to delve too deep into any one of these methodologies and how our process looks like, but I would just throw it out there and you can look it up afterwards. So basically we have object-oriented UX, which is our UX at the top. Then we usually go into user stories. We put down the components and Cta Library, style guides, and then we transfer everything into the design system. Now, what those things actually are? Object-oriented UX, it's basically this. So yeah, you all thought that, you know, designers still draw a lot of stuff. Well, essentially we kind of deal a lot with Excel spreadsheets nowadays and post-it notes. But basically, object-oriented UX, it's something that Sophia Prater, I think it's Prater, Sophia Prater kind of come up with this methodology while working for CNN in 2009, but don't take my word for it, and then 2016 again. And basically what you find out is the methodology that clearly defines the scope, clearly defines where you still have some things that missing in your design, and clearly defines, or it kind of helps you to kind of go really close with development from the very get-go of the project. So object-oriented, that's basically a name that comes from programming. Now, if you want to learn more about it, just go on the web and read this article, and it will take you through a few practices and so on, but it's a really cool method, and we use it really a lot on all size of projects. Now, then we go into user stories. I think that user stories are kind of like, everyone knows what user stories are. Any hands? Like, okay, some nodding, cool. But basically, user stories are just how we take a user from point A to point B. So we have, let's say, a sign up or an onboarding flow of the application. User story is just like, okay, here you sign up, here you come to a first onboarding, and then you come into a dashboard. And that's a very simple, let's say, user story. Now, based on all of that, based on OUX and based on OUX and user stories, we kind of developed this documentation. And this is a documentation where we call it components and Cta Library. Basically, it's every single element defined. And it's not really clearly seen here, but you have like specified logo, typography, colors, what is that all about? Okay, buttons, iconography, so on and so forth. And basically, we defined every single button, for instance, in this case. And based on that, we build style guides. And based on style guides, we kind of go into designing design system, which it's a big topic. I don't want to go too much into depth with that. But essentially, I think that you can clearly understand that this kind of system really keeps your design very consistent. And like I said at the beginning, using these processes take you some time to get used to. We discovered that actually we save time doing all of this. But the biggest benefit actually is that your application will look consistent. So everywhere we'll use the same buttons, everywhere we use the same modules, and so on and so forth. And if you want to look trustworthy, if you want to look like a professional or well-designed app, this process is something to go for. Okay.
Okay, if you go back to the Eventum project that we were talking about earlier, we did some usability tests for them, and it was really interesting because it opened our eyes to just how inexperienced users use MetaMask, which is a browser extension and a wallet for your Ether and all the tokens. So how that looked like is that I came on the location, the Eventum offices. I sat down and we just started planning how the usability testing will go, and then we gave instructions. Basically, it was this blog post, the instructions to that user, which was not experienced, neither trader nor investor, nor maybe a good term for him would be a cryptocurrency, not a total noob, but a noob. So he really had no idea, and he had to install MetaMask before he even started anything. So in the instructions, there were basically 15 or 20 different steps that he had to take in order to complete this task, which was participating in this event, for which he had time 20 or half an hour, 20 minutes to half an hour. So how that went is that the user started reading that and just clicking on MetaMask, and the minute he came to MetaMask and using fake headers that he needed to claim from a Ropsten test network, this is basically a test network, not a mainnet network, where ethers are fake and just used for the purpose of testing. They don't have any value whatsoever, and they can be basically, they must be used just for testing and nothing else. So user had to first claim these fake ethers, and then, well, this is the point where he already started getting some problems, but it continued where he needed to, in order to claim a reward, after he participated in an event, he had to claim a reward, but in order to claim a reward, he had to initiate a transaction. But for that, the user needed to basically send a transaction in order to receive something. So that was very confusing to him. And we started asking ourselves, damn, this is really tough for new users. And that kind of takes us back to the point of don't introduce too much technicalities like gas limit, max transaction fee, which MetaMask provides. It's useful and must be kind of present, but this just confuses new users, and we need to somehow figure out how to go around this without removing the functionality, but just present this in a nicer way to our users. So this is an interesting problem to think about.
So yeah, essentially the problem with that case was that there was only 2-minute time span window where a user could actually log in a MetaMask and then claim his reward. Now we kind of figure out that 2-minute time span is just not enough. Most of the users get confused with how to actually handle MetaMask. And you must understand that MetaMask at this current moment actually is the easiest way how to handle and how to sign up with blockchain. Okay, but to recap, so if you want to start designing blockchain-based digital products, we would suggest just make them as easy as possible. Your users don't want to hear all that technical things that you maybe as a developer usually want to say to them. Just kind of strip it and try to look for already existing digital products and kind of bring them into the blockchain space. Design for trust. This goes in with any other, but the really good point here is that developers, we are very keen that we kind of say, all right, blockchain provides trust on its own. By default, this is a trustworthy network. What you must be really careful about is that your users don't know that. Your users are not aware of that. Of course, keep it consistent, and like with any other digital product, just prototype and test, usability test, interviews, A/B testing, whatever. Do as much as possible. Now, we finished with the principles, and we just wanted to go a little bit wider and kind of dip into or kind of scratch the know-how of the blockchain.
So when you are trying to either design or experiment or innovate on the blockchain and use blockchain to solve a problem of yours or of your company, you must understand that the tech is really important here. If you start fiddling around with smart contracts and you don't really know what you're doing, it doesn't make sense. You should really hire an expert on this because, as we talked about earlier, people make mistakes, people write code, people make mistakes, and in order to really get this new technology working, you should be using or hiring experts that know their stuff in order to avoid mistakes. So yeah, know the tech. And blockchain in a nutshell, if you repeat as an expert sees this, try to strive towards this, become an expert instead of just looking at the value of certain cryptocurrencies. Try to focus on fundamentals, research, maybe help out with good projects in whatever way you can, either be it with donations, with informing the community, be it like we are doing today with giving talks, and just try to spread awareness of this new technology because it has potential. And it's being, as we saw with CryptoKitties, which I think some of you have heard of before this talk, there is real potential and real use cases that are happening right now and being solved right now.
Really, the biggest case for why a designer needs to know technology is that in the blockchain space, you cannot really get away. Now, for instance, we all use apps and so on, and sometimes like a simple booking app maybe, can be developed by someone who doesn't know how to, a certain, let's say, API works. What I learned in the blockchain is that if you don't actually understand how technology works, you'll have a big problem being a designer on a blockchain-based project. Now, the second thing that we believe that it's very important for a designer to know, it's actually the business side of things and the landscape in which we operate. And I'll just give you an example, and it's an example of an insurance product. It's a very simple product. Basically, you insure your iPhone, and in some cases, let's say in a case of a battery failure, which quite often happens, especially now when it's very cold, you get an automatic auto claim, and basically you can choose to claim your ethers in this case, or you can find repair service, and that takes you to this screen. Now it's a very simple product, and we show it to different big insurance companies. We show it to Triglav, we show it to Sava, and we show it also to Lloyd. The thing is that big insurance companies at this moment, they don't really see a great value in using a blockchain for this specific app. And to be honest, this specific app could be done normally, like centralized, like we do it right now. So it doesn't need a blockchain to work. And what we try to stress is that a blockchain on itself, it's not a value proposition. Blockchain is just a part of the technology stack. What it brings to the table, it's what it is important. So did you heard about USPs, unique selling points, marketing, anyone? So USPs are essentially those values that we list on a let's say landing page of a product. You know, it will, I don't know, in the sense of let's a silly example, but Facebook, you know, bringing people together, that would be a USP, let's say. So a blockchain on itself, it's not a USP. You know, it's not valuable on its own. What it brings to the table, it's valuable. Now, the insurance companies are not very interesting to use this type of an app based on blockchain, is because what the blockchain in this case brings to the table. And what it does bring to the table are three things. Now, first off is the trust. All right, we have behind this, we have a smart contract. Behind it, like nobody can change it when it's signed. If my battery kind of gets failed, they need to pay me the money. So they don't. An insurance company can't really control. In this case, can't really control how much they pay out. The second thing is that, or the second value proposition, let's say, is that transactions happen really fast, which means that you have a better user experience. So how that works is that when my battery gets broken, I claim 2.3 ethers, and those are automatically and right away on my bank account. Now, if we would do this centralized, let's say it's Friday, it's 5 p.m., I claim my money, and let's say they're like, you know, of course, during the weekend, banks doesn't transfer money, and let's say that's in Monday and Tuesday, they're holidays, so I will get my money on Wednesday and no before. So that's a poor user experience, which, you know, a blockchain can do way better. And the third one, sorry, and the third one is that those fees are very cheap, and because we use autoclaim, you know, the insurance product can be a little bit cheaper. Now, all of these value propositions aren't really interested for or interesting for big insurance companies. So in the sense of trust, they are big brands, they're well-known brands, they, you know, assume they don't need trust. Second off, my idea would be that, yeah, they do care about user experience, but not to this extent. So if you look at all of the insurance companies nowadays, or I wouldn't say all, but I would say the three that I mentioned, in most cases, when you want to get something insured, the process, it's really poor, for the lack of a better word, I guess. It takes time, it's a new thing, and so on. And they are kind of try to do a better job of it. Now there's a lot of insurance that you can also do online and so on and so forth, but they are very far away from where like this industry standard is. Like just you know, let's say Triglav, just 2 years ago, they started to developing their own API. So they're like way behind everything else, where, you know, a lot of other industries, an API is just a standard. And now for the third argument, I would say that they handle insurance products way different. So as a designer, I completely understand why an insurance company would say, look, we don't care if you do this on blockchain. And if you would white label this product with any of these insurance companies, I would understand why they would say that. Now, all of those benefits addresses a very, or speak to me in a great way if I am a startup. So if I am a startup and doing all of this, of course I need an insurance partner, but that's a whole nother story. But if I am a startup, first off, I am a nobody. Nobody knows me, so that I have some sort of trust already by default because of the technology that I'm using, that really helps. Second off, if I can offer better user experience, that's my competitive advantage. So yeah, therefore I want to use blockchain. And thirdly, I want to offer cheaper products just because I want to have that margin. And that's basically it. So you must treat blockchain based on the context you're kind of operating in, and understanding how industry work, how business work, and so on will also, you know, help you be a better designer.
Okay, so designing for digital product based on blockchain is not that much different than designing for any other product. But you should be aware of all the risks and benefits that come with the blockchain. So, as we said, the benefits are speed, low transaction, decentralization, one of many, but also the risks, take care of security, know your users. Maybe you need to make your users aware that the blockchain is behind your app or product. Maybe they need to know that they will be using cryptocurrencies. So design with that in mind. The current state of this cryptocurrency scene is still kind of a mess, but things will change, and they will change fast. A lot of blockchain technologies or platforms are currently working on different scaling solutions, which will improve transactions and transaction speeds up to 10-fold or 100-fold from now. So it's said that in 2 to 3 years, the blockchain capacity, I won't name which one, will be on the Visa level. So it will be able to handle as many transactions as Visa does. And that's Ethereum, so. But other blockchains are solving these scaling solutions too. So it's just a question which one will come there first and which solution will be the one. But we need to know that probably there won't be only one blockchain, but many of them that will survive, just as we have PayPal today, Amazon payments, Stripe payments. These are 3 payments that are taken care of online paying. So why not take advantage of many blockchains and really solve a problem of how to connect these blockchains to work together seamlessly and just enjoy.
Okay, so we'll post a link to the Facebook event. You have a lot of links, a lot of resources that you can go through if you're very into design. Even maybe if you're not a designer, if you're a developer, try to understand also the design side of things. But for my conclusion, what really I think it's important is that, yeah, you know, blockchain or designing for blockchain, it's pretty much no different from designing any other digital product and a business around it. Basically, it's very important that you iterate, you move fast, and more importantly, that you have a developer in a room, somebody, you know, who understands business, marketing, a designer, and so on. And if you know, through that process, you'll come to a great things, or great products. And this is basically was the official part. Now, if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Also, if you have any problems designing your own blockchain project, just, I don't know, pitch it and we'll try to find some sort of a solution, I guess. So, anyone? You had it prepared, eh?
Is the user adoption rate of blockchain as a technology being slowed down due to focus on technical development and not so much on the design part?
So most definitely design entered the space, you know, I would say not so long ago. So most definitely the nature of blockchain and how the first products were built, they were very, you know, technically orientated, and they were building by tech people. Now design got introduced like later on in the game, but the thing is that just the argument why it's not so different from, you know, designing any other digital product, I think it's a good argument that this thing will escalate soon. So I would predict that in the next, I would say, half a year, we'll see more and more well-designed blockchain projects. Also, a lot of these things that we pointed out, all of this, you know, in a while we'll find solutions to them and best practices. And I think that this will happen really soon. So if you want to kind of focus your design work on, let's say, blockchain projects, I would suggest that you start learning right away. Any other questions? Like, everyone understood everything. Any feedback, maybe? Like, was it too much or was it too little? Sorry? Yeah, of course. Like, a lot of things that we presented here are, you know, things that you need to take a month for individual stuff to kind of grasp. But yeah. Anyone? Really? No one, no questions? Okay. So then we'll be wrapping up for today. If you have, like, this was the first time that we tried this presentation. If you have any feedback for us, maybe how we can improve it and so on, just come to the two of us. We would be very happy to hear your feedback. And that's basically it. So yeah, thank you.